Stay back, coming in. A shocking geopolitical storm is unfolding. EU countries, starting April 25th, plan to impose additional restrictions on Russian LNG and energy, all the way to a complete ban on such supplies by 2028. In response, the Russian leadership has already instructed the government to evaluate the possibility of stopping energy supplies to the European market without waiting for the door to be shut in their face. Those volumes will be shifted to other markets that are more interesting and promising. The current market situation shows that if this transition happens, now if Russia shifts to markets that truly need increased supplies, it will gain a stable foothold where demand is reliable and long-term relations exist. At the same time, the United States and Israel are said to have made a major mistake in the war against Iran. The two powerful countries allegedly made a blunder by touching North Korea. Reports claim that an Israeli attack struck the North Korean embassy office in Tehran. Meanwhile, Donald Trump continues to ignite tensions by drawing Russia into the situation. Vladimir Putin is predicted to step directly into the war zone to assist Iran. Although Russia initially declared neutrality, it promised to fully support its friendly nation. North Korea was enraged after its embassy was hit. Panic within the coalition military triggered a fatal mistake. A blind airstrike operation reportedly targeted a diplomatic facility belonging to a friendly state. The North Korean embassy building in Tehran was damaged by fragments from a stray missile, sparking intense anger from the East Asian leadership. Kim Jong-un saw the sovereignty of his diplomatic territory trampled. The regime would not remain silent in the face of what it called Zionist military arrogance. They reportedly launched retaliation through asymmetric cyber warfare. Intelligence reports claim North Korea sent 7 elite hackers to disrupt cyber operations linked to Israel and the United States. These cyber units allegedly paralyzed satellite communication networks connected to the Pentagon. The direct involvement of a nuclear-armed country pushed the geopolitical situation toward explosive tension. What once seemed like a World War scenario in movies suddenly felt closer to reality. The effects quickly spread across the Asian continent. As U.S. missiles moved toward the Middle East, citizens in South Korea feared a potential North Korean response. South Korea now lives under the shadow of nuclear anxiety from its northern neighbor. The diplomatic crisis did not stop with North Korea's anger. Russia also began stepping in more openly. The Russian government stood firmly with Iran against the American war machine. Moscow refused to watch its strategic ally be destroyed. Logistical support from the north reportedly began flowing. Russian intelligence satellites shared precise coordinates of enemy positions, increasing the accuracy of ballistic missiles used by Iran's Revolutionary Guard. Beyond military intelligence, Moscow also delivered an economic blow. EU countries plan to impose further restrictions on Russian LNG and energy supplies, moving toward a complete ban by 2028. Russia responded by considering cutting off energy supplies to Europe before those sanctions take effect. Instead, those volumes would be redirected to markets with stronger demand and long-term partnerships. This move threatens to choke Europe's manufacturing industry. Weapons factories across the continent could face shutdowns due to a fuel crisis. Putin stated firmly that Russia holds strong control over global gas supplies. Energy could still flow to Europe, but only under strict political conditions. The threat of a complete cutoff left European leaders trembling as they realized their sanctions might backfire. Moscow declared it would supply energy again if Europe chose to apologize. Western pride now stood before the reality of natural gas pipelines. This economic maneuver demonstrated strategic diplomacy from the Eastern Alliance, damaging opponents without firing a single bullet. The shockwaves hit global markets. The United States could suffer the most from a worldwide energy crisis. Wall Street turmoil created panic in Washington. Donald Trump reportedly found himself trapped in an economic crisis of his own making. Rising fuel prices spread across the United States, triggering severe inflation and mass protests. In an attempt to calm the public, Trump announced the controversial decision to remove some sanctions on Russian oil producers. When asked about his call with Vladimir Putin, Trump said he had a very good conversation with the Russian president. They discussed the Ukraine conflict and the possibility of ending the long war. Despite these statements, The policy shift was widely seen as proof of the West's economic diplomatic defeat. Without cheap energy supplies, Western economies struggled to hold their ground. Meanwhile, Iran intensified its military operations. Under new command leadership, attacks on critical Israeli infrastructure reportedly escalated. Rockets struck ports and logistics hubs, disrupting supply chains. Missiles launched toward central cities caused massive destruction, sending millions of civilians rushing to shelters. Targets became more precise, focusing on officials and military facilities linked to the conflict. Watching the destruction of its ally, the United States appeared hesitant. Donald Trump reportedly backed away from deploying ground troops, fearing the destructive power of advanced weapons. Rather than escalating the conflict further, Washington signaled interest in ending the war, claiming Iran had already been weakened. But the statement sounded increasingly like a desperate attempt to reshape the narrative of a rapidly escalating global crisis.